So one of the kind of recurring themes in ABM is all around sales and marketing alignment. People talk about this a lot. They talk about it a little bit glibly, perhaps, because I think it's really hard to get that alignment working. Now, I wanted to ask you about how, given your global program, how do you kind of manage and approach that whole task of getting sales brought into the process?
Well, part of it, Robert, I think is establishing the credibility with sales. You have to be able to communicate with them. You have to understand their cycles that they go through, because there are definite cycles within the sales organization, and times that you can talk to them and times that you can't.
And that's to do with what, the kind of quarter on quarter?
Quarter by quarter, field kickoff meetings, different events. You've got to know what's happening in their life to understand how to communicate with them. They are relationship people, so sitting with them face to face, as you mentioned, is the best way to do it. If you can't do that, what I try to do is at least talk to half of the accounts that I work with face to face. That gives me the credibility to talk to the other half that I don't get to speak to face to face.
Okay, that's interesting. That must mean you spend a lot of time on the road then, going off to meet salespeople.
I do. But I try to do it in a way where, like I can go to one location and see 4 or 5 different sales teams. So I've been fortunate enough that a lot of my accounts are in the same country or in the same city or office. So when I come to London, I can see 4 sales teams. If I go to Tokyo, I can see 3 sales teams. So I can get a predominant number at each of those locations, and that makes it a little easier. Whereas if I'm in America, I may have to fly all over America to see the different sales teams. Yeah.
So I mean, my personal perception is that when you first meet a salesperson, they're often, I mean, to be blunt about it, pretty cynical about marketing as a whole, actually. They see marketing as not necessarily adding much value to what they're trying to do. It doesn't really kind of map to their objectives. And obviously part of what I try and do is to kind of turn that perception around and show the value that ABM can add to the sales process. Is that something you see as being a challenge as well, just getting salespeople to actually give you the airtime to talk about ABM?
It starts in the beginning, right? Them getting an understanding of what you're trying to do. If they've been skeptical at first, in many cases, when I see that, all I have to do is start showing them some of the creative, or start showing them what we've done with other accounts, or how another account has received it. So that, again, it all goes back to building the credibility and building the relationship. And that's why it helps to sit face to face with some of them. Not all of them. I don't have to sit with all of them. But as long as I gain that credibility with some, and I can start using the examples of those with others, it helps. And it has helped the account program grow. So
we're talking about getting a kind of critical mass, if you like, in terms of buy-in and opt-in to the program.
Yes.
I guess part of this whole conversation about sales alignment is actually, it's not just like last week I had my first meeting with this global account director. She left saying it was a really good meeting, but that's not the recipe for good ABM, is it? It's about that kind of long-term process. So just how do you kind of manage that, making sure that people don't kind of opt in and then opt out again, and you kind of keep them engaged?
Well, that's the key, is keeping them engaged. So we don't just go in and say, here's a program we're going to create for you. It's all about the program we're going to create with you. So we engage the salespeople all through the cycle. So there are milestones, probably 5 milestones through the development of an ABM program, where we bring sales back into the mix so they can understand where the strategy is going, what the topics are going to be covered, and agree to that. And because we know if they're agreeing as we go through, they're starting to think how they're going to use that with their accounts. And so at the end, the whole goal is to have them opt in, because we also allow them to opt in or opt out at the point in time. If they opt in, then we know they're going to use the pieces, and those are the pieces they are interested in using and we'll develop for them.
I think from our perspective as an agency, that is a fundamental building block to making ABM work, because where the marketing person inside the company can't get sales engaged, that means the program will collapse. Completely. Or where sales kind of duck in and duck out again, that means it won't quite happen in the way that you set it up to happen, and that will lead to disappointment and disillusionment. So I think that getting that sustained buy-in right the way through the cycle is absolutely critical. Yeah.
Absolutely.